gearing up for another release. This is our 4th seasonal we've put out this fall, winter. It's Gingerbread. It's an Imperial Oatmeal Stout aged on Gingerbread Coffee Beans from local Pro Coffee, who's right up the street. This is a 12%er, so it's got a good kick. This is a little different from our Twitchy series. Usually you affiliate our Twitchy series with a coffee bean Imperial Stout at 9.25%, but this is something we've never done before, not even at the Valley. I don't believe. We did our 12% Imperial Stout on coffee beans, so just why not take it up a notch? Plus you're going to need it. It's starting to get cold, so it's a good belly warmer. So let's talk about the beer specs on this, how it's made, the recipe, everything like that. So the grain bill in this is 2,500 pounds. It fills up our grist case. It's one of our biggest beers that we make. And this batch was a 40-barrel batch, so we brewed it over the course of 3 days. So this is one of our, longer extended beers that we make. We start with a 2.5-barrel yeast starter. This is a 12% beer, so we need a lot of healthy yeast. So we start with the yeast starter, and then we brew our first 20-barrel batch, pump it in the next day with oxygen on top of that yeast starter, multiply those yeasts, grow them more, and we pump our second batch of 20 barrels that we make the third day on top of it. More oxygen, yeast multiply, and then we shut it up and just let it go for a couple of weeks. This is one of the slower fermenting beers, just it's chewing through all that sugar. You got all that osmotic pressure versus some lower ABV beers that the yeast have to contend with. But the grain bill on this is, it uses 7 different grains. Most of it, 80% of it's just a standard Pilsner malt base. No flavor, just a light base malt. Then we use about 1.5% of Crystal 40, 80, and 120. The lower numbers means it's roasted less, the higher numbers it's roasted more. So if you eat these malts, the 40 is going to be kind of like a lightly carameled malt. The 120s you don't want to eat, those will chip your teeth. Those are fully crystallized just about, and those provide some body, some sugars that don't ferment. And we use about 10% chocolate malt to give it that chocolatey taste. And this is a Imperial Oatmeal Stout, so we use about 10% of flaked oats also, just to thicken up that body. And we use a little bit of carapels, which aids in head retention, about 5% of that. So it's a big recipe. So you're probably wondering, where does the coffee go in all of this? Well, once it's done fermenting, week and a half, 2 weeks, and there's no more activity, we'll chill it. We'll set it to about 33 degrees. That'll drop any yeast and anything still in suspension. It'll drop it down to the cone of the fermenter. And we'll let that sit for a couple of days, and then we'll drain that off. And then once it's clear, we move it over to our bright tank and put it on coffee beans. And usually, depending on the bean and what flavor we're trying to get out of it, how big is the beer, it'll sit on beans anywhere from 1 to 2 days, and we'll recirculate it through that 40-barrel bright, get it mixed, sample it, and see if it needs another day or not. But usually we get these down to 1 to 2 days on the beans. And we use about 2 pounds per barrel. And I always get this question at both locations when we have a coffee beer on: is there caffeine in it? And there's a very small amount. And I did just run the math, and I checked it twice. So if we're putting in 2 pounds in per barrel, that is about 0.065 ounces of coffee per 8-ounce cup. Now, just for a visual, a K-cup, that has about 0.4 ounces. So if you compare a K-cup versus 8 ounces of this, your standard coffee is about 6 times more caffeine than this. So not a lot of caffeine. If you're extremely caffeine sensitive, it is there, so be careful. But if you have a coffee here or there, you're not going to notice it. It's mainly for the flavor. Let's go over some food pairings and cheese pairings. This is ginger gingerbread. It's good to pair with chicken and ham. Those are going to be good holiday meals that we're going to have. Cheese pairings, a triple cream spread. You know, you can spread it on the gingerbread, drink one of these with it, but it's a light, spreadable cheese that works well with this. Now, label art. You know, how do we come up with the label art? A lot of people are starting to ask me, you know, where do you come up with this stuff? Well, these seasonals and trying to feel our way through distribution, you know, as we went through COVID and had to change a lot of things. You know, labels need to be done so many weeks before the beer's done. So planning that out ahead, and then distribution needs seasonals like a month to 2 months before the actual season. So trying to line all that up, I feel like I'm always behind. This one caught me off guard. It was like, oh no, it's right around the 10-day mark. I gotta get a proof to label design to the graphics people to print these. And I'm like, gingerbread, what can I do with gingerbread? What's simple? And for whatever reason, the chalk outline stood out. I'm like, you know what, that's simple. My designer can crank this out in a day. So this was the first time prime. And no, we love it, it worked. So that is the story behind the label art, at least on this beer. So now, the fun part, let's crack this open. See how it tastes. So this has just been canned about an hour ago. They're currently canning it right now. So this is the freshest ever. So immediately I smell that coffee aroma. So there we go. Got a thick toffee type looking head. You get the coffee. I get the coffee a little bit first, and then it fades into the ginger. Definitely not spicy like our twitchy with pumpkin pie spice and habanero. It's a little more toned down, a little more in the background. But with a nice thick 12% Imperial Stout, it just works well. Flavored beans are awesome to work with to get those flavors imparted into your beer. So that's a nice fireside sipper. A lot of flavor, a lot of body. So I know you're gonna like it. So this is being released Friday at 3 p.m. throughout the weekend. This is one of our smallish batches. So distribution and all the retailers, they don't want to purchase any more seasonals after December. So if you want this and any of our prior releases to be around Christmas and the New Year, when you're with friends or family, definitely get your hands on it now. Because being new to this, we don't know how much is going to sell quickly or when. But we still have all of these at the tap room. So come on in. We've got a giant facility, 54,000 square feet, 30-foot ceilings in the main part. All the air is shared and circulating. So we do a pretty good job here, spreading people out over 6 feet, and we do a lot of cleaning. So we're pretty safe for an indoor venue. That is that. We hope to see you this weekend.